FPL Differential XI is a series where I pick a team of 11 lowly owned players who I predict to score the most points for the upcoming game week, to assist you in gaining rank over other fantasy managers. There's just 3 rules. The squad must be worth a maximum of 82.5 million. Each player must be owned by less than 10% of FPL managers, and I'm only allowed to pick up to 3 players from a single team. A silhouette of each player I've selected is already on the pitch, so feel free to play along by seeing how many of the 11 you can correctly guess. Kicking off the series in goal, I've decided to go for Jason Steele from Brighton. Brighton arguably have the standout fixture of Gameweek 1, a home match against Luton, and I fancy them to comfortably pick up the 3 points in that one. Steele performed exceptionally well in my FPL team last season, and with the way he plays out from the back, he's usually favoured by the FPL bonus points system. There are question marks over who will get the goalkeeper's jersey for the Seagulls, with Verbruggen arriving in the summer transfer window, but Steele has played well in pre-season, so I expect him to continue to be first choice. Having been priced 0.5 million more than the rest of Arsenal's back line, Ben White is largely being ignored by the FPL community. White had a really strong season at right back last year, and I can't imagine any reason why he won't continue to start there. I can see White getting forward in the match against Forest, so there's a chance of him returning more than just a clean sheet. Talking of clean sheets, one thing that may work in White's favour is early substitutions. The Premier League recently announced that they'll be adding more extra time onto the end of matches, so that could work against players who usually play the full 90, like the Arsenal centre-backs. John Stones is probably the most nailed defender to start across City's back line, but he is over 10% selected in FPL. For that reason, I've decided to include who I think will be the next likeliest defender to start, and that's Ruben Dias. When Pep decided to rotate his defence week to week towards the end of last season, Dias was the only player to get a run of games. I believe he started about 7 or 8 matches in a row. Whilst I do expect Burnley to be far more attacking than what they were in the Premier League previously under Sean Dyche, I don't think it will be enough to get a result against City, who I'd hope to also be able to keep a clean sheet. The last pick I've gone for across the back 3 is Diogo Dalot. There's no doubt this is a risky pick, as Dalot clearly has competition with Wan-Bissaka for that right back spot. However, this home fixture against Wolves is just too good to ignore. I've heard United fans say that Ten Hag generally prefers Wan-Bissaka in the tougher fixtures and Dalot in the easier ones, because he's able to get forward more often. The ability for United to also play a flexible back 3 with Varane, Martinez and Shaw should also work in Dalot's favour, allowing him the freedom to venture up the pitch. Whilst a clean sheet is probably more likely in this fixture, I wouldn't rule out an attacking return. With a disappointing Premier League campaign for West Ham last year, it's hardly surprising that Bowen has currently been selected by just over 5% of fantasy managers. Despite a poor season for the Hammers, Bowen still managed to return 6 goals and 9 assists, and I think many of us expect him to build on those numbers by the end of the 23-24 campaign. An opening game week fixture away to Bournemouth looks like it could present an opportunity for West Ham's attacking assets, and seen as officials will be adding more time onto the end of matches, Bowen's a standout pick, as he's usually a 90-minute man who takes plenty of set pieces. One player who I've not seen mentioned much over pre-season is Kai Havertz, but I can definitely see him returning in the opening game week of the season against Forest. Gabriel Jesus has recently picked up a knee injury, ruling him out for the first few weeks of the season. However, I think it's highly unlikely that Havertz fills in up front. Instead, I expect him to take the place of Xhaka and play a number 8 role alongside Odegaard, which I still think gives him potential in terms of being a viable FPL asset. Havertz already has a couple of goals in pre-season, and I can see him wandering in the box and being on the end of plenty of crosses that get delivered from the right side of the pitch. I've decided on an interesting pick for this next spot in the Differential 11, and that's Jordan Ayew from Crystal Palace. Ayew faces Sheffield United in the first week of the season, who many people are favouring to finish bottom of the table come the end of the campaign. With Michael Olise currently struggling with a hamstring injury, it leaves the right side of the front 3 open for Ayew, who I expect will get a fair few chances throughout this match. Of course, Eze is the standout player to go for from Palace this year in FPL, but Ayew could be a fantastic differential, priced at just 5.5 million and currently less than 0.5% selected. One player who I can't believe is so lowly owned is Solly March. This is a guy who found his way into most FPL teams at the end of last season and is now currently in only 3% of teams. Whilst I personally believe that Mitoma is a better option over March, more than a 30% difference in ownership does come as a bit of a surprise, especially given how evenly the two players matched each other last season. Brighton do have a fair few options across their forward line, but you'd have to fancy March to start the first game against Luton in that right wing position, and I think there's potential for the Seagulls to score 3 or 4 in that one. A lot is currently up in the air when it comes to Tottenham, and we're still unsure whether Harry Kane will remain at the club come game week 1. That being said, I do expect a much better campaign from Son, who returns to the action having had surgery for a hernia that kept him in considerable discomfort last season. With the appointment of Postecoglou, I think we can expect much more offensive football from Spurs, allowing more chances for Son, who was previously relying heavily on counter-attacks. I predict this match against Brentford will be end-to-end and very open, so Son should get plenty of opportunities to return FPL points. Following injuries to Nkunku and Jesus, João Pedro is finding himself in more and more FPL teams with less than a week to go until the season gets underway. I think he's an exciting pick, and his flexibility in terms of positioning should allow him to get plenty of minutes for Brighton this season. I personally think he's likely to play the number 10 role just in behind the striker, so this home match against newly promoted Luton should be an opportunity to capitalise on a player who will gain you plenty of rank if he were to return. The 6 million and below price bracket for the forwards is a little bit sparse this season, but I definitely think João Pedro is a standout option. I'm recording this video prior to the Community Shield match between Arsenal and Man City, but whether he makes the lineup or not, I think Eddie Nketiah is a great differential for the first week of the season. With Jesus picking up a knee injury, the likelihood is that either Trossard or Nketiah start up front against Forest, and in my opinion, this is the standout fixture to target in game week 1. So either player has the potential of scoring big in FPL. Forest conceded 68 goals in the Premier League last season, so I'd expect Arsenal to find a way of putting at least 2 or 3 goals past them. Just a quick reminder to let you know that your channel could feature here on the next Differential 11 video. If you want to win a channel shout out in the next video and a place on the leaderboard, correctly predict the FPL points total of today's Differential 11 team. Details will be down below in the pinned comment. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, enjoy the rest of your day and best of luck for the upcoming game week.